have been in Portland and know much more about the work that we have done in your community than I am familiar with yet. So, I was provided a handout that I apologize for only having enough to put one on each table. But I just wanted to kind of highlight some of the work that we are doing as an agency. So Prosper Portland's strategic plan has focused our work on building an equitable economy, focusing especially on communities of color and those that have been historically underserved. Our primary tool to do that is tax increment financing, which is a tool that is used that leverages real estate taxes within a geographic boundary and is able to use that real estate tax money to invest into development projects within that geography. So a lot of that work is often doing things like the Foster streetscape improvement or development projects like Lents Commons at 92nd and Foster. Our work over time has taken a more fiscal responsible look at how it's used. So instead of 100% financing all of the projects that we invest in, we're more and more likely to find partners that we invest with, as well as provide the resources that we have available to us as a loan to the development project. So many of those loans now have financial returns that are attached to them. So no longer are we just granting money into big development projects. Those have a financial return that are associated with them, and kind of makes us make smarter choices that meet the market where it is today. In Lents, we have something called the Lents 5-Year Action Plan. That has been our guiding document for making decisions within the Lents TIF district. This plan was approved in May of 2014 and was developed in partnership with the community at that time. Over the past couple of years, we have invested in projects such as the Foster Road Streetscape, the Woody Guthrie Project, the Asian Health and Service Center, and we've also been able to provide community livability grants and to area nonprofits that are making infrastructure improvements to their facilities. We're also able to provide grants to small businesses through what we call our PIP grant. And so we've leveraged a number of grants through businesses like Atlas Pizza on Foster or the Five in Vine. So in 1920, we have partnered with the Leach Botanical Garden to invest in some of the improvements that they are doing at their facility currently, and we are working to advance the project at Lents Town Center Phase 2, which is at 92nd and Herald. And I know over this past summer there was a lot of community engagement that occurred. Many of you may have participated in that, which is now turning into kind of a development deal with the developer that we're working with there. In 2021, we're working to continue to advance the Lents Action Plan, which is continuing to focus in the Lents Town Center, the Foster Road corridor, along 82nd and Powell. So that's the main three corridors are places where we are focusing our business resource developments and our TIF dollars. And as part of this, we are working to get our budget approved by City Council. So we are currently in a process where we have been engaging what we are calling the Budget Advisory Committee. So this is a larger committee composed of representation from the various TIF districts across the city and the neighborhood prosperity network members as well. The member from Lents that has participated in this group has been Sabina. So if you have more questions about that process or what we're learning as an agency through that work, she's a great resource for you for that. And we're getting ready to take our draft budget to City Council. And as part of that work, we wanted to come here today and check in with residents of Lents to learn more about how we can be effective in the work that we do within the neighborhood. So that's my first question is a question that I'd like to pose to you around what is a priority strategy for the upcoming budget of fiscal year 2021. Yes.
So you talked about the 5-year plan.
Yes.
Is there intention to do a new 5-year plan since that's expired now? And also given the market has changed so dramatically?
Got it?
My question is, sorry, it's a little odd with the echo. So you talked about the 5-year plan that should expire and is basically was assembled in a very different climate. So is there an effort to come up with a different plan before you start spending money on old ideas?
Yeah, that's a good point. Thank you for bringing that up. Our plan was adopted or approved in May 2014. So it did technically, the 5 years came to an end over the past year. And right now we are continuing to work using that plan as an interim as we make decisions since we have not created anything else yet to replace it. So that was a document that we created with intense community involvement. And it is something that we will be coming out and asking community, what is left here within this strategy plan? What is still important to the community for us to continue to focus on? Where do we need to shift and pivot to respond to the changes of both the market, the neighborhood, and the needs of today here in Lents?
Any idea when? Sorry.
So being down in staff, it is hard to answer that question with good specificity, but you will be continuing to see me hear more and more, and I hope to be able to provide some consistency through this transition and to work with you to answer those questions better. Thank you. Yes.
So you get funds from the city. How much funds?
Hold on, could you repeat the question?
Sure. Okay.
We would really appreciate it if you all could help work with us to use the mics because it's very hard to see, especially at the back.
So the city is able to bond future real estate tax. Sorry. Okay. The question was, how much money do we have to spend? Is that a good summary of?
Yeah, you get the money from the
We
city.
get from the city. So that is a good distinction. So 90% of the funding that we get comes from the real estate taxes within the geography of the Lents TIF district. A very small portion of our funds comes from the city itself. Is that fair to say? Yes. Okay. However, when we established the Lents TIF district, there's something called the maximum indebtedness of which we're able to have access to for funding within the Lents district, and that number was $245 million. So we have had access to a sizable amount of money based on the real estate taxes within the geography of Lents. And something else to point out that I think is important when we think about a new action plan is the timeline that we have. Technically, the last date to issue debt for the Lents district is 2020. So there's the amount of money that we'll have moving forward will be whatever the residual amount that we have left that has not been put into projects. So that number is closer to $50 million now versus the 245. So we're kind of like nearing the end of the life of the Lents district. So that also does create different priorities and availability of resources and strategy from our side as well. Yes.
Hi, I've been present to see a lot of what your surveys are, and they're pretty much always number one, we want a grocery store, and we want local businesses. And so many of the, so many of the storefronts are empty, and I know that a lot of the barriers are things like none of them were built for it to be restaurants or anything because there's no smoke outlets or anything. There's no place for loading and unloading trucks, and I know a lot of people who wanted to open businesses, and they basically say the rent is just too freaking high for what they can expect their business to make in this neighborhood. So what I want to know is, how are you going to help? And a lot of these are who you say you want to help: female, minority people. So if it's not working now, how are you going to help us fill those vacancies now that we all desperately want? We want to buy stuff in our neighborhood, and in the future, when you build more stuff, like, we don't want that to sit vacant either. So what's your strategy for filling these buildings?
Yeah, it's really important to us to not only create market intervention, so that we create change within the existing market of Lents, but to capture it in a specific way as well. So we're trying to do a delicate dance of create new opportunities within the existing market, but also capture the market so that we're not pushing totally up a hill, that we're capturing where the market is today and being able to use our limited dollars in an effective way. So we do have access to the PIP grants to work with local businesses that are looking to start. I'm happy to provide more information about those. We don't have ability to lower the rents. Yeah. So that's not something that we're able to do, unfortunately. We do have our project at Lents Commons that you have pointed out to that has been vacant for a long period of time, but we are really working right now to reactivate and reprogram how we're marketing that space, really looking at the rents, really looking at what the landlord can provide for build out and what kind of services we need to better market that space. So we are going to see some work happening in that building in this coming this year. I'm really excited about the opportunity to better position that property, because it's a great asset for us as an agency, and it's really in the heart of the town center, and it's such a vibrant community that we really know that it can be a better activated space. So.
Another question? Okay, so my question is, all these changes that you guys have made brought in affordable housing. As a renter, what are you going to do to help stop the displacement? I've already lost 3 renter friends in Lents because the prices have gone up so much because of your improvements.
Yeah, I appreciate you sharing that with me. It is the double-edged sword of working on this kind of work. It's really important to me to create opportunities for the residents who are from Lents to benefit from these types of investments. Unfortunately, naturally occurring affordable units are very vulnerable, and I know it's something that City Council is looking hard at, and other the county members, but without having direct control over the landlords and their ability to raise rents, I don't have a direct control over that outcome.
We have time for 2 more questions.
Just going back to the rent for shops, just going back to the rent for shops, is it possible to offer some sort of assistance or subsidy, particularly to women and people of color or people with disabilities?
We have focused that subsidy towards the tenant improvements and the build out of the space. So far, the money that we're able to invest can go into physical improvements rather than into operating subsidy, just based on the state statute of how TIF dollars can be used. So unfortunately, we can't buy down rents, and we cannot subsidize properties that we don't own in that way. However, we do have programs like the PIP grant that is designed to help folks get physical improvements made to their building, get the vent hoods added if they're a restaurant, to get signage added, new storefronts, increasing electrical panels, increasing HVAC system, things like that that can help a business get established in the district.
Okay, we have one more question.
Yeah, thank you. I stumbled across a document on the Metro website a few years ago that said that the reason that we're not having high density happen in Portland, now this is a few years ago, is that the rents were not high enough because the land values have not increased enough. So it looks to me like you guys know that rents were going to go up as a result of what you're doing, and that is your intention because you put high density as a goal above affordability. And it strikes me that both the city of Portland and Metro really don't care how many people they toss out of their homes as long as they achieve this goal of packing us in like rats. Thank you. Oh, I'll comment on that, please.
We're going to take just one last question. Someone at the back who's had their hand up for a while. And,
No answer? Am I wrong?
Sorry,
Am I
I thought
right?
you said that it was just a comment.
I'm sorry. I'd like to hear your answer to that. Is that the city's intent?
Greetings.
Okay, 1 second. Hold on 1 second. Yeah.
I cannot, is not my intent, sir. It's not at all my intent.